GBS model, is it 100% captive? Is it a hybrid model, or is it a completely outsourced model?
It's a great question, Chinmay. It's a great question. So this is a design decision that we made at the highest level. We had multiple choices, one to have partly captive, partly outsourced, but we made a choice to ensure that we have a retained and an outsourced organization. So collectively as a management team, we said, look, the best way forward to drive both cost efficiency and outcome is to have a provider do a lot of transactional operations, while all the strategic activities will still be with our retained organization.
Right. I heard in your presentation you stressed a lot, every slide had key takeaways.
Yep.
And you stressed a lot about customer experience and satisfaction. Can you talk a little bit about how do you measure customer satisfaction?
See, the most important thing is there is an end state and there's a way you start. The starting point is always where we have multiple systems today and multiple systems of engagement. So for me, the client experience starts with, can the client start ensuring that we have a sales effectiveness from order to quote process, having the common set of data, common set of engagement, common set of connections back to our client, and therefore much easier to interact with NTT either from a quoting stage, ordering stage, or the payment stage.
So Dilip, you have a digital 2022 ambition coming around the corner. What's next then for NTT's GBS journey?
I think it's a great question. The first one is to build a digital core and make sure that we're getting the three outcomes that we have mentioned. 1, cost efficiency, 2, performance, and 3, some of the other data and insights. Once we have built the digital core, the next step will be to see how we can get incremental revenues coming from the same digital core with our existing clients and of course existing offers.
Makes sense.
Can you share one example of this very outcome that you have achieved in your GBS journey?
Fantastic. See, today if a client has to place an order on NTT, typically a client manager has to interact with a client. From there, the quoting process would start, and then once the quote is submitted, the client validates the quote, validates the price, he places the order on us. In the new model, as we start seeing this emerging with transformation, is to have 1/3 of our clients interact with NTT directly using a platform.
Lovely.
That's the ambition that we have got. So my transformation team right now has a goal of enabling 1/3 of our interactions with clients, vendors in a much more digital way than the existing physical interactions that we have.
If today we were in 2025, how do you see NTT GBS? What would you have achieved?
I think this is going to be a long journey. I'm clear it will be a long journey. We have in phase 1 centralized our regional operations. In phase 2, we will now move into the next level of our other companies, which is services. And eventually we will drive higher adoption on our back-end processes, front-end processes, keeping the retained organization to do the strategic activities, and combined, we should be seeing more digital engagement with our clients, more digital with our vendors, and of course making sure that the data can give us more insights and more predictable approach to our business.
Makes sense. So we've talked a bit about the future ambition for NTT, and when we look backwards maybe, you have transformed with such speed, 12 months if I remember correctly. When you're transforming with such speed, are there any compromises along the way in your opinion?
There are. So, but it's a list of compromises, correct? Again, as I said, we want to get 80% correct. So there could be compromises on certain processes not being streamlined, certain processes we have not still applied the standardization. But on the journey, we know the backlog that we have, we keep it in the backlog. But the low-hanging fruits is what we are focused on. We keep chopping on the low-hanging fruits, keep moving forward.
Makes sense. Thank you, Dilip.
Most of our audience that was in the room today and also online want to learn from things that you have achieved, but also things that you regret. Is there something that you would have done differently in this journey?
Well, I think I did tell you that the two things that we have done differently is modernizing our platform and really innovation on the way we are sourcing for GBS services. On modernizing the platform, as I spoke in my presentation, it was all about moving from a hub and spoke model onto a cloud data exchange model. And that's a huge investment that we've got with our IT team. And the IT is busy making sure that almost all the applications are moving to the cloud. So we have a cloud first strategy, we have a data first strategy, and we have a secure, which is zero trust strategy on our application modernization. And then of course with data, we're absolutely moving from seeing data as distributed across multiple source system, getting centralized so that we can focus more around engineering using data as an asset to give us insights and outcomes.
Great. Thank you so much, Dilip. A truly impressive story at NTT. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank
Here in the studio, we are going to now welcome Matt Stallard from Deloitte. He had a presentation on the digital core not so long ago down on plenary stage. Welcome, Matt. Come take a seat.
Thank you very much.
First of all, great presentation, and we were watching you from here. The stories that you explained, just amazing. Let me kick off with the first question, which has been trending on the QR code. What were the main obstacles you tend to experience when identifying such digital potentials with our clients?
The main obstacle is that most people tend to just want to jump into the solution and not actually take time to step back and really understand the users. So we invest a lot of time in what we call user research. That's even before you get to experience design, to really understand the pains and the pitfalls. And it's convincing kind of organizations and clients when we're talking to them that actually don't jump in with a solution that's going to answer the problems. It's the thing I said on stage, right? Our mantra is about falling in love with the problem. And the only way you can really fall in love with the problem is to really understand it through proper user research. So that tends to be the main barrier. Once you've done it once of a client and they see an outcome, hopefully you would have seen from some of those outcomes, just the simplicity, the comments I've had and from finishing that to come up here is just like, it was amazing, but it was just so simple. But it's only simple because you really understand the user and getting that bit right, and then you can make the technology work.
That was going to my second question. If I am a client, how do I start sequencing the steps that I take? And what would you recommend for me to, after I've identified the problem, what should be the next step, apart from calling you, of course? What could I do?
Give Matt a call.
I might have a few phone calls after this. So the first thing is start small. Right? We always need to start small when you're trying to do something like this for the first time. By starting small, two things will happen. If you start small, you will probably be more successful in the first instance. We do fail. I'm not going to sit here and deny. Every month as a team, we sit down and we talk about the failings we've had, because for me, they're not failings, they're learnings. And it's really important for us. But by starting small, there's less risk of failure. The second thing is that by starting small, it gives you as an opportunity as a client to start upskilling your own capability, because it's an easier thing to get your head around when it's something a bit smaller and manageable. And for us, that's really important, because we want you to be able to develop your own user experience kind of dashboards, things like you saw, define those right interactions, understand the user research method. But if you're going in after something that's really big and hairy and important to your business, that's a harder thing for them to do.
I've got a question as well, if I may. So we talk about user research. Are there any kind of common pitfalls that we see clients or organizations make around assumptions for the
Definitely. User research that is from the center is not user research. You have to get out in the field. You have to understand what's happening. On that second one, the fashion retailer, luxury fashion retailer, we went into multiple stores, we went into the different supply chain operations. We even went into, they have concessions as well within department stores. We went into concessions because we needed it to work across all of the platforms. And actually, we could have sat in the center and spoke to somebody in retail operations and buy-in, but we would not have got all of the answers that would have made the interaction and the experience so seamless as what you've got. So the real pitfall is, people think about user experience, but then they go straight after straight to the center, straight after a hub. But actually, you really, to get true user experience, you really do have to speak to everybody, and also your customers. In that one, we spoke to customers on behalf of the client. We did it, not the client. We spoke to customers about, what do you really want? How would this improve for you? What interaction would you like to have? Are you okay with having your details on this app? So that when you walk into a store and you give your name, somebody knows all about your buying history. It's important that you do that as well. So it is the pitfall is thinking you can drive it from the center when you really need to get out and speak to all of the users.
Makes sense.
It's a great response. You, in your presentation, you spoke about the Amazon experience.
Yep.
Of course, there's tons of investment and research gone into it. How long does it take usually for somebody who's starting afresh to get to that level of a customer experience?
It's a really hard question to answer. Like, it's how long's a piece of string, right? We're working at the moment. One of the clients, they've got electric vehicles. They're thinking about how they have a connected car experience. That's a big experience. If you think about how you use your car as an individual, as families, with friends, interactions with, going to a supermarket, going to a garage, there's many different user journeys in there. So that will take a lot longer. The first example I showed of the food and beverage retailer, that was a single user journey. We were like, you've optimized your process to the maximum potential, but it's still not great for you as an individual. Let's focus on that user journey, and you can get after that a lot quicker.
And how do you help the users excited about this kind of a journey, and what sort of a role can they play in helping you?
Really good question as well. It's important to always keep the users engaged. So, with that first demo I did, because it's probably easier to anchor it around it, as we were building that portal, we were showing it to the user and live, and they had tablets, we had our Macs, and then we were showing them on the Mac, and they were like, what would you like to change? And they were saying, we'd like to change that, and we were changing it live with them, going, well, this is how it would look. And they were going, actually, that's not how I expected. Can I change it back? Maybe we try this. And so it's about getting that constant feedback. I talked on stage about failing fast. In that example, that is a fail fast. We got the initial design wrong, but we've got instant feedback and we've corrected it straight away. And then we're doing more things like that. And so, the whole thing about user research and user design isn't just about doing a tranche of work up front and then giving it to them at the end. It's like constant engagement, showing what you've got, getting iterative feedback all the time.
Makes sense. And for different, levels of maturity of GBS organizations or just organizations in general, if you're, not that mature in terms of your development of the digital core, what would your advice be to get started?
I think as a GBS organisation, my start point would be to understand processes a bit like the first one where you had those screens. Think about where you have processes where you're in and out of two different screens or even two different technologies, where effectively you're trying to enter the same information, but they're just asking it in a different way. So you could start from there. And I think I got your question, but there's a bit of background noise, but I think I got your question right. But you could start from there and then think about where do you have that within your shared services. But again, start small. Start with something that you know is achievable. You can build up capability. You can build up your understanding.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt. I think that's all we have time for today. But thank you very much. And thank you to each and every one of you who has joined us today via our live stream. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have, and that you'll be able to come back tomorrow. So wherever you are in the world, have a good morning, afternoon, and evening. See you later. Thank you.